Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Perceptions for Progress. This is the second part and the final part of this topic this evening, and it is family, finance, business, race relations, and we have two new guests with us, and we would like to welcome them to the show. And we have Brother Cromwell, who is here with us, and I will introduce our two guests in a few moments. But I'd like to say that this is our final show for 2022, and we will be back in the new year with a bang, and we will be dealing with new topics: health, self-determination, education. Those are the first three shows that we will be doing in 2023. We thank you for your viewing. We thank you for the feedback we have received. And as we start, I would just like to review the last show because I want to highlight some of the values that I thought were pertinent, and the feedback we received. People learned and were able to evolve from some of those nuggets. And we really want to once again thank Raymond Packwood and Doris Brooks for coming on and sharing what I would say over 50 years of business experience with us. And some of those values were the importance of staff and team. They both showed and gave us examples of how important their staff was to them, and they made sacrifices to retain their staff during the COVID, and how they valued them and rewarded them outside of just their salary. I thought that was important, and I think that added to the longevity of their businesses. The other value that I thought was important was to also understand, not so much a value, but there are different approaches to attaining finance. One approach is to go to the bank. The other approach was to find investments and investors from your family or your inner circle. And also another approach is a mix of the two. I thought that was giving us what we call perceptions for progress. It's not always one way. And so I thought that was highlighted by the presenters. The other value, which came through very strongly, was the quality, to provide a quality product and service. Mm-hmm. And you will recall how Brother Cromwell was talking about that was one of his main aims, of providing a quality product and service and value for money. The other one that bears repeating is the need for professional advice. We all don't know everything. Mm-hmm. We need professionals to support, to help grow and create more success. Highlighting was Ms. Brooks talked about how her lawyer was key to her growing her business, expanding her business, making sure that there was always a place that she could go to get advice that would make sure that she was not being ripped off or taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. And Raymond talked about accounting. That was his background, and how that enabled him also to make sure that he's always keeping those numbers in front of him. Because sometimes that profitability margin can slip away from us and we don't know it. So the importance of keeping those numbers. And the other one that I think everybody that was on the panel talked about was learning how to pivot. Pivot meaning learning how to change very quickly your business strategy, your direction, whether you expand or contract or concentrate and focus. So I just wanted to remind us of some of those things that came up. They may come up again tonight. And please, if they're important, please bring them up, because our feedback tells us that you can never hear good advice enough. So with that, I will turn the mic, so to speak, over to Brother Cromwell, who will kind of put in the framework perceptions for progress. And I would like to say we are doing this in the name of the universal creator who evolves us and who provides us a space of grace. Brother Cromwell.
Yes, when I think about this very broad subject, family, finance, business, and race relations, I cannot overlook that as Muslims, we are strongly encouraged that beliefs drives our positions, whatever they are. Our strongest base on principle is our belief system. So it's something that we can't ignore when we're addressing any challenge or subject in our society or in our personal lives. So when I look at the driver behind my thoughts, I look at history, I look at the benefits, I look at intentions, and I look at outcomes. When I think about these four key things, family, finance, business, and race relations, history, benefits, intentions, and outcomes is a very strong driving force. So with that, I'll say our contributions, regardless of what grouping we may emanate, should end up benefiting the broader community as a whole. Education has been responsible for us getting to know and value the different perspectives that come with the views and understanding of individuals, understanding of groups or institutions, and even bodies of knowledge. It is important and imperative that I use this opportunity of a part two of this important discussion that deserves the approach of an open mind and respect for all different views. The promotion of race and business without conflict requires intelligent, skillful communication along with demonstration. Awareness in itself is not good enough. We could claim education, but if we can't demonstrate that education with good deeds, awareness has no value. So we just can't say we know. If we don't see work, and it just can't be just any work, it's got to be good work to recognize, to have people to understand what that awareness represents, then if we don't see people doing that, demonstrating, then that awareness is worth less. So, along with demonstration, with the respect for progress and successful evolution of the family and mankind and or diversity, it is incumbent we have a duty to share our belief and the basis of our practical behavior within this subject of family, finance, business, and race relations. Moral accountability, the difference, the distinction between what is good and acceptable for progress and what is wrong and defeats success in the outcome of family, finance, business, and race relations must be clearly and openly discussed, particularly amongst the working poor who oftentimes have limited formal education. The revealed word, and I'll say scripture, most of us are aware of that term. Some may say religion, but not everybody follows religion. But it's no argument that in history there have been many revealed words. So the revealed word points to the intrinsic value. And that intrinsic value is simply saying your natural nature, what's in you intrinsically, what's in you, your constitution that's God-given. Nobody gives it to you. The revealed word points to the intrinsic value that came with you naturally through creation. The value of woman. That word woman, mother. Why I say that? You can't have family without that woman. That woman births the male and the female. It's a strong reflection there. Woman births male and female. That mother has virgin mother nature. What she requires to meet the child's care and the child's needs, husband or friend, neighbor or enemy cannot give her what she needs. God gifts a mother, a woman, with all she needs to care for her child. God gives her that. Yet in these times, commercial life's circumstances, to act on spiritual and moral mental impulses is becoming very difficult. People are not able to reflect on morality and decency because of the stress that they're under in the commercial life. Commercial life takes up a lot of their time, and they fail in responding naturally to spiritual and moral and mental impulses. One great prophet said, "He who created me shall guide me." The last prophet said, "Who is not kind to our weak is not of us." I think I need to repeat that. Who is not kind to our weak is not of us. The majority of the population of Bermuda have in their background a history that disadvantaged them, fragmented them, slowed their ability to progress, and slowed their educational progress, slowed up their material progress and financial development. And the growth of many Black community people have suffered because of fragmentation. This fact must not be ignored or rejected. The Muslim, through the enlightenment of scriptural guidance, recognizes the natural, inherent social value of race consciousness and racial esteem. Very much like the Jews, very much like the Christians, the Jews of the of the Torah, and the Christians of the gospel of Christ Jesus. They have the same thing. I conclude by saying these three major religions give value and important guidance in matters of family, finance, business, and race relations. We all will improve and benefit in these areas, vital to community, societal, even universal growth, when we become more truthful and charitable. And let's be mindful, charity begins at home and then spreads abroad.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm just going to repeat key points here. We can go right into our first panelist. I declare special interest. He's my cousin, Collins Smith, the owner of Ordre Laundromat and Bermuda Commercial Laundry. Collins is also known as Dawood, so we can call him whatever we feel more comfortable with. Is that okay this evening, Brother Dawood?
Fine, yeah.
Okay. And welcome. And let's start with the first word that Brother Crumble started with, history.
History.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about your history as an entrepreneur, family member, finance, business, race relations. You pick it, and we're here as the entrepreneur, family man, wonderful families. So,
Well, it was a vision of a very wise friend of mine's that came up with this idea of laundromat, and he needed some support, and I was there to support him. And the first laundry we did was the Pembroke Laundry on Paget Road. Mm-hmm. That's where we started.
How many years ago was that?
That's in 1986, somewhere in that area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we spread it out a bit, and at a certain point we parted our ways, and I started the Bermuda Commercial Laundry, and we had to order a laundromat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And what part has your family played in your business?
Well, I'm blessed to have my older son who really got my back. Mm-hmm. And also my wife works in the operations of the commercial side of the laundry.
Yes, yes.
So my older son started when he was a toddler almost.
Yes.
Yeah, his biggest thing was to get his fingers on the cash register.
Yes, yes, yeah. And that's great. So in that, thanks for the history. The other, you talked a bit about when you started with your wise friend who had these ideas, and you went in to really support. Now you are the owner of this. And what has your intention been? I'm going to stay with your key words there, Brother Crumb. I like those words.
Okay.
And what was your intention as you grew?
As I grew, at a certain point, I was really thinking about selling out some part of the business. And then I started thinking about my family and my son. Something to build that the family could have and can carry on for years to come. So with that in mind, we had a little small place on the road. We rented for 25 years. Yeah. And we had laundry piled up all outside on the sidewalks, and we were just overwhelmed. Yeah. And it was a new concept, commercial laundry. And when I first started, I had one customer. He's come twice a week.
Okay.
And I had a lot of hands-on scrubbing going on.
Whoa.
And so from there, things just started to take off by the grace of God.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my last sub-question to you is benefits. What have the benefits been over the years?
Finance. I became successful.
Yes.
Successful ambassador.
Yes.
My son gets a little nervous sometimes. Oh, we need to advertise. We need to do this. I said, in my experience in business, what God's going to bring to you, it comes. It never fails. It always comes to the door. And sometimes it gets overwhelmed. And I say, I'm heading off. And he would say, let's hang in there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, because you've financed and you've been able to provide for your family.
Yeah.
You know, extended family and staff. I know you've had some of their staff been there with you for a long time.
Yep.
And then you've got that great big building. Now you're being very modest about just that little one that used to overflow. How about down the road, about a good 500 yards?
That was a fun project. And this lady came to me one time and she said, "You hired everybody that other people wouldn't give a job." So most of my workers are from around the rubber tree, somewhere off the street. Yeah. But I had rules and regulations, no drinking on the job. They still used to drink. I just find bottles and tucked inside the block. But one guy I was going to fire, and he begged me not to fire him. He was making good money. He was a good worker. And he picked up. He knew I was serious, so he decided not to drink on the job. But, they're all Bermudians. They work hard. And I think it was a reflection to the community what I was doing.
Yes, yes. We're very proud of it.
So people were saying, I had comments saying, don't give up, hang in there, don't sell it.
Yes.
So it's,
yeah. And that's the charity that you were talking about, right?
Yes.
You were talking about charity.
Yes.
And thanks for being truthful in that story.
Yes.
Now I'm going to move to, as I say, the rose between the two beautiful leaves, because we have no thorns here this evening. And Kidist, Emery, yes. A lot of people didn't know about your business being owned by you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call any names, but tell us a bit of your history.
Okay, so I own Bermuda's first training salon, where we take young girls and that want to be hairdressers and make them into great hairdressers and amazing people. We have been around for 11 years. We are a social free zone, which means that we don't service just white or just black. We service anybody that comes in, white, black, other. Most people don't realize it's owned by a black salon because they say it looks too a black person because they say it looks too professional, whatever the case may be. But I keep it pushing. I have broad shoulders. I get out there, do what I gotta do. My business was birthed out of when I was younger. I always wanted to be a hairdresser since the age of 5. And my dad was like, no, you're not. You're gonna go do something else. I went to the college for a year. Finally, my mom and dad came together and let me go away to school. But in the meantime, I couldn't find a job. I was trying to be a salon assistant. No one would hire me. And then Rosemary Matthews from WorkSac, who was one of my favorite teachers, talked to her sister Sharon, and I had got a job at her studio, so I would be forever in debt to them. And then off I went. But while I was in college, I was like, this is absurd. Like, we have to, training was always a part of me, and apprenticeships and seeing how it works in the UK and everything else. I was like, okay, so I wasn't given a chance, and I want to be able to provide that space for other young girls that are coming up. So I always knew I wanted to open a training salon. I knew I had to come home and build a clientele so that I can start my business with some sort of capital or something walking through the door, and then go from there. So I came home, I worked for 2 different salons for 7 years, in the space of 7 years, started my business in 2011. And we have trained 5 Bermudians and 1 spouse of Bermudian to date. We actually have 1 young girl who went through the college recently. So my girls go through the college and then they go overseas to school. So one of my apprentices is actually overseas at the minute. We have a new one started. And yeah, that's my story.
Yes, your history. See, she's a smart learner. She went to WorkSac, Dr. Tankard. And she went to Cedar Bridge.
Yes, I was one of the first graduates of Cedar Bridge.
And so she's moved from history right into intention. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your intention. You had very clear intentions. Yeah. First, for yourself at 5 years old. Yeah. Supportive parents.
Yes.
After a while.
Yes.
And
I got where my dad was coming from. Like, when you look at now that you're older, you look at the older generation, and he just wanted me to be able to get a job and have a paycheck. And, so he didn't think of it as, he thought of it as like my grandmother who used to do it at night. You know what I mean? Okay. After work. So he's like, I watch my mother slave. I don't want to watch you slave. Mm-hmm. So that was like one of the driving forces behind me to create I always said I wanted my business to run like a corporate business, so that we can have great benefits and be able to pay the girls well, and that everything was fair and that we can create a proper business structure. So that when they're 25 or 30 and they start to have kids and get married, they're not like, okay, I'm going to go work in the corporate world right now because I need more balance, or I need more this, or I need more money, or whatever the case may be. And so I am proud to say, to date, we have definitely 100% created that.
Wow.
So,
and you are the creative director of your business.
I am the creative director.
You
of my
are the
business.
creative
Yes.
director. So you've given us your history.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, she hails from, she's a Cedar Hill girl.
I'm a Cedar Hill
She's
girl.
a Cedar Hill girl from an entrepreneurial family.
Yes.
She's a Wilmot. She's got Scottish roots.
Yes.
And we know that Scottish people have been entrepreneurs and
Yes.
have that kind of drive. You schooled me on that. You gave me that history. And you have a beautiful name, Kidist.
Yes.
Now, a lot of may call you other names, but tell us about your name.
So my parents, when I was born, or my dad's still Ethiopian Orthodox. So my name is Kidist Hairute Selassie, which is Holy Chosen of the Trinity. And for many years, I shunned away from it, but now I'm actually embracing it, and my dad will be happy. And so, that's the background of my name.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so you have, you've told us the history, and I really applaud the vision that you kept for yourself. That took a lot of focus.
Yeah, sometimes I look back now in my young 25 years I'm like, I had a lot of single-minded of focus, but it got me to where I am now. So sometimes I stop, and especially after having a little boy, I stop and try to be present and enjoy my success, which, you kind of, at some point, you're looking back at entrepreneurs, they kind of like still worked and like grinded and still do, right? They struggle from being the owner to being the operator. And it was something I knew I didn't want to do. Like Steve Jobs built this amazing company, yet he dies of cancer at such a young age, right? And it's like the stress of all of that, like it doesn't have to be, know? And so I was very clear on giving my business my blood, sweat, and tears for 10 years. And then within that 10 years, I had to make sure my systems and processes were set up, and that my staff were great, and that I can actually walk away and be the visionary of the business, right? Because that takes work, right? Like they don't know my vision. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. They do know my vision, but I'm the one that has to drive the vision ahead.
Okay.
And my team is what makes it happen, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
So I'm learning now to just breathe, ground myself, take a walk in the tracks, listen to the birds, which is a lot when I do a lot of my thinking time, right?
Yes.
To be able to move this ship forward and provide a fair space for my girls to come to work in, where they spend most of their day.
Yeah, because most hairdressers, and when they do get those familial responsibilities, they have to move on because they want to depend on a certain amount, so that you've been able to, in your business, be able to manage that they have these benefits, because a lot of times they're contracting and they're not real, they're not sure. So you built your business model where there's a level of stability and always growing. Is that what?
Yeah. So it's benefits, yes, is one. Obviously, our employment laws protect us really well, which, I'm grateful for. But being able to make sure that the business is driven into the salon is something I don't take lightly, and is something that I am 100% responsible for. My front desk coordinator helps me a lot with that, but making sure the marketing is done, and making sure the clients feel appreciated, and making sure the salon experience from the minute they walk in the door to the minute they leave, my online presence, all of those things is a lot. It takes a lot of work, because that's not my zone of genius. So being able to sit in the space of hiring outside of my zone of genius, and my business being able to afford that, because some people don't have that. I don't want to call it a luxury, but some people haven't set themselves up in that way. So they look at it as an added expense, where it's the consultants on the outside that help me build this business. One of my consultants that I just love dearly is my accountant. I call her my boss because she holds me accountable.
Yes.
She has a lot to do. She obviously runs the books, but she is a part-time hairdresser too along the way, with as well as the small business owner, as well as the CPA with a full-time job and other things. And so she understands my like wanting to run, but she also understands things from the business side and makes sure that it's I'm more balanced going forward and not running it into the ground.
Right. So there goes that value again of understanding the importance of professional help.
Yes.
In your business.
Yes. Accounting is not my superpower. I can read a balance sheet. She's taught me well to understand all my line items on my profit and loss.
Okay.
She's taught me the importance of cash flow and all the things, but that is not where I spend my time. That it makes me itch.
Right. And one more thing before I move on right now is you are, if we didn't say it loud enough, you are the owner of Salon Pink.
Yes.
Okay. And you are the creative designer for that business, or director of that business. But there is another title that you have recently holding, and I think it's phenomenal, given my experience in business, that you are now an Ignite mentor. You want to share a little bit about that?
So I am a part of the Ignite Mentor Network, and Ignite is a business accelerator program or incubator program, I think it is, here on the island. It's a 6-month program. You have to apply to get in, and you are interviewed. And one of the things that they are big on is diversity and providing jobs. So, if your business is doing those things, then you're liable to get in. But it's a great hub for entrepreneurs to get in, to get a business network, because you can sit and talk to your friends and family, but if they're not in business, they don't understand you and they don't get it, right? And I am a huge component of mentorship, or it doesn't have to look like someone telling you what to do. It can look like creating a business network so that you have someone to bounce ideas off of.
Right.
Ignite do really, really well at that. So they are housed at the Argus building. They have a hub, and they just started their cohort number 6.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
For a 40-year-old woman.
I'm 25.
You're 25. So she's on her 11th anniversary of her 25th birthday. But I'm sorry. Should have kept that a secret. But to have accomplished that with a level of truthfulness and charity is what you were expressing, Brother Cromwell.
Yes.
Is that's down at the basis of that. She was truthful to her calling, to her. You mentioned that in your talk about the nature, about our nature. So she was able to stay in her, what we call her fitra.
Yes.
Right? And be in her nature and to have the support network. And Brother Dawood, the same, is that he has, he's always looking to solve a problem. And I think that's what the laundromat business, both residentially and commercial, you fill the void and solving that problem. And as we've talked over the years, it's all about, it's employing. You see unemployment in your community and you were able to employ. So those are all gifts. Those are charitable gifts that we are bringing when we stay true to our nature.
What I heard throughout these 2 presenters' delivery was nothing but nature. When I reflected on the subject of race relations, my copious notes has here that creation supported social logic may come with any observation of natural life. Kidist mentioned about social and the idea that diversity is important.
Yes.
And all of that. And what comes along with race relations is for us to understand where we fit. You know, when we think about what's dysfunctional, we can't ignore what the history behind what has caused imbalance. We end up with a person that understands the importance and the success story in business. They know that balance is important. They know that. But how easy is it to get balance from a people who have in their history a basis of inequality. There's no balance in inequality. So when we talk about social logic, looking at having social neutrality, we have to consider both sides of the equation. So race relations, I heard all through these two very good ideas of success in business that integrity, dignity, morality, the idea of good, bad, right and wrong. You talked about the rubber tree and no drinking, and if you can't fulfill your responsibility, you're going to be let go. You're teaching that with that idea. So business has also been known to have a mainstay for combating poverty. Now, I have a strong position when it comes down to how many people are misguided and looking for government for too many things. They think government fills the job of Jesus Christ. He satisfies their entire soul. Government is not like that. Government is a facilitator, but they don't give us everything. It's been known in Islam that business is the second arm to religion. It's the second arm to the word of God. Business. The great prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, he had his number one support from the best businessman in his community. And he supported the struggles in the religion, the business person. Now, I say that to say what? I'm not saying it promoting Islam. I'm saying that promoting social integrity. A businessman saw the value of religion and what it served in people, and those two together was able to establish a community life that had people not dependent on government, but dependent on each other.
Dawood, it's been 35 years or plus, and we talk about religion, we talk about words, but then we have to actions, and those were wealthy Sahabas that helped, wealthy helpers, and part of that wealth sometimes you have to have finance. How have you financed your business over the years?
At the beginning, in the 80s, it was a struggle. My partner and I think we went to just about every bank in Bermuda. And I saw a friend of mine who was his floor manager at one of the banks, and he said, "Go upstairs and see this guy, so-and-so." So we went upstairs, and right away, he supported our ideas. He says, "Go to the Small Business Association." And basically to get educated on how to approach the bank. And if they approve you, then he will approve finance. So it was, like she said, to get professional help.
Yes.
And all throughout my businesses, I always relied on, I had to do a business plan. I go to the bank, fill out a form. I look at this form, I said, damn, I really need help. You know, just the ordinary person trying to fill out a bank application for finance. I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, well, I need some help. So I sought help. And in doing business, you look for the professionals to do a certain part in your plan. Quantity surveyor, accountants. You really need them people. When you go to the bank, The bank don't have to give you money. So people go to the idea that the bank's supposed to give you money. Banks in business to make money.
Yes.
I find when it comes to race relations, I had black loan officers and I had white. But I found out my presentation had enough to do with race. I found out that my presentation, I was organized, I had a business plan, I had a quantity surveyor, I had all the ducks in a row. And
Yeah. And your approach to financing over the years, I guess it changed, like you said, when you started, you went there. Now, do you rely on bank financing as much as you did when you started?
another part of my starting was this little thing. I took an overdraft when I started my commercial business. So the overdraft was supposed to be 3 months, ended up being 4 months. So the bank calls me up and said, look, we got to give you a loan. So I said, check my account. I'm out. I had paid off in 4 months. By the grace of God, he sent this particular hotel that was renovating the laundry, and I was able to pay off my overdraft.
Yes, yes.
So that was a good start. It was a friend of mine who came to my laundry when I first started, and he said, I'll never forget, he stood at the door and he made a prayer that my laundry will be successful. And he said, if I get in, because you know, if you take these long-term loans, you can pay for something 2 or 3 times over. He said, you get in and try to get out as fast as possible.
Okay. Okay. Great. That's great advice.
One of my mottos is not to go downtown buy a BMW unless I have the means to do that. I like to be conservative, have something to fall back on, because things will go bad sometimes. Business can slow up, something can happen. So always keep an ace in the hole.
Yes.
And that was, some wise man came to me and said,
That's a great lesson we heard from Raymond Packwood in the last program. Same thing about buying what you can afford.
Yes, yes.
You know, and don't buy something because you can afford it right now for $500 pair of sneakers. If you can't afford to wear $500 sneakers for the next 2 years, that means you're going to need about 5 pairs of sneakers. Then don't buy the $500.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, stay within your needs, and you then will have something to fall back on. Great point. Kidist?
Yeah.
How have you tackled? How do you approach financing your business?
At the minute, all profit stays within the business, and we, do what we have to do to kind of keep it growing that way, so that we fund our own whatever we're trying to do. Originally, I went to the bank, and the BDC were very pivotal in what I had to do. 11 years on, I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest that, if I knew then what I know now, I would have either still borrowed but backed my own finances, or just pay for it all out of pocket myself. Okay. But you live and learn.
Okay. And why, looking back, you would do it differently?
Same reason.
Okay.
You pay it back 50 times over.
Okay.
That little thing called interest, or that big thing called interest, and little thing called principal, which is just,
right.
The business. The bank is in business to make money.
Now, when you started 11 years ago, Colin Dawood, he mentioned about the quantity surveyor and all the different it was called Bermuda Small Business when you were there, and now it's BEDC, Bermuda Economic Development, when the professional kind of help that you got in advice. And but you also have a circle of support, I think, that you talk about. You want to tell us a bit about your circle of support as you started out, and you feel that has really been a cushion for you, or a source of strength, a pillar for you, not a cushion, a pillar?
My son's grandfather, Larry Mills. I went nowhere without him when I first started, because I was I was a woman in business, so I didn't want to be shafted or taken advantage of or anything like that. So he was very helpful in helping me get a lot of my construction up and running, having those hard conversations that it was a new space for me. So I have learned to be confident enough to talk like this now. But back then I was like, oh my God, I can't say that to the architect, or I can't say that to the contractor. And he was very helpful in that way. Like, just making sure that no one was taking advantage of the situation. And I learned quite a lot from him. And still to today, when I'm having a tough day in business, I give him a bow, and he listens, provides his advice.
So that's family, real family support that you have there. And one of the things that always struck me when I first came to your salon, Pink Salon, was you call it socially free zone.
Yes.
Other people call it a socially neutral. Yeah. And I remember seeing these beautiful pictures of all different types of women. They were not modeling their hair, but there was a certain, they exuded a certain confidence. Yeah. They exuded professionalism, or beauty, and all of these things. And they were giant pictures on the wall. They were all different ethnicities, the entire scope of the human family. And it was just like a friend of mine and brother said, is this for me? Yeah. And it was just such a talk about the environment and how you intentionally create
I didn't realize
that space
back then that I was actually creating what we call now a brand. I knew I was making my stamp for the culture of my business, because hair salons are still very segregated. So there's white hair salons and there's black hair salons. And when I first started out in hairdressing in Bermuda, a lot of my black clients, I went to work at a white salon, were like, oh, I want this and I want that. I'm like, sure, you can have it. Hair is either straight, curly, kinky, wavy, like we can do this. And so for me, when I worked at a salon that did predominantly white hair, bringing my black clients there, I knew right away that I loved hair. It didn't matter the color of the skin. So I knew that my staff and my clients had to be diversified. And, it's unity. That's how we survive in life, right? Like we just all have to figure it out in some ways, right? So for me, coming into the space, I knew I wanted to have a diverse clientele. I had a diverse clientele. I knew I wanted to have diverse staff to mimic that. And so creating that wall of female empowerment, they had to be from all walks of life and all different backgrounds. We tried to stay away from religion and money, because in college they teach you that years ago that those talking points can cause a lot of friction. Okay. Since the world we live in today, now there's talking points are fine to have a conversation about. So to me, the brand and culture of my business was diversification and unity. And we were the space that was going to happen. And we were the space that we're going to have these uncomfortable conversations. And coming from a place of listening, a place of understanding. And so like situations like Black Lives Matter happen, it was a very easy conversation to have with our clients and with our staff alike. It wasn't anything, because we set the tone. Well, I guess at that point would have been 9 years prior. Okay. So.
Okay. Interesting. Brother Cromwell, you have been in the same business. Yes. Yeah, actually. Used to cut my hair. And those kinds of conversations, they go on in a barbershop. And how do you manage those types of conversations? And I should say, when I used to be in your barbershop, I loved it because the little young boys used to say, so what do you think about this, Mr. Cromwell? What do you think about that, Mr. Cromwell? So you were having difficult conversations, not just with the men and all sorts of men, that came into the barbershop. How did you manage those? How did you make them something like, as Kidist was saying, relevant talking points and create unity or understanding?
Well, truthfully speaking, I didn't need to think about relative talking points. I really didn't. I was blessed not to have that limitation, whereas I needed to pick something from somewhere else in order to address
Right.
what my needs were. First of all, I always had the drive to represent the best of myself in my business, number one. And the personality creates the environment. The owner, the operator, the manager, his aura sets the environment.
Okay.
So I understood my objective was to be a model that would be recognized as an improvement. And why did I say it like that? I recall when I first came into Hamilton, because I had 4 different locations in my 50 years of business. And when I came into Hamilton and sat up in the BIU building, and it was my first barbershop and beauty salon that I built from ground up with all my hands. I done everything myself. I didn't have to get a loan from the bank. I done everything myself. And this particular person said, "Man, why you put such a nice looking place back of town, man? You could have done this here up front of town. You would have got a much more better clientele knowing what this type of environment of your barbershop represents." I said, "Listen, man, if I wanted my community to rise, then they need a model that's going to represent improvement. I came around here to be an idea that says it's possible for you to be on this level, even back of town. We seem to see back of town as though it's below Front Street." So I said, I had the intention of wanting to be a model. And it wasn't just the idea of business, it was my whole personal life. That's why when I looked at the businessman carrying in Islam dignity, integrity, morality, and high values that is going to be disciplined. Man, I got that late in life, but I had those as a basis in my spirit.
Okay.
As an individual that wanted better for myself, for my family, for my community. Charity starts at home and then spreads abroad. I never ignored that, and I was willing to do without being recognized on certain levels in order to start a beginning in an area where people were depressed. I wanted to be a model. So it was fair game for me to set up in an area where most people wouldn't have put that type of money. And secondly, when I think about the idea of management of money, financial discipline is exactly that, management of money. Good uses of money. Islam says that we should respect everything in life, from plants to animals. Money, you must not disrespect money. Money is a tool for the protection and the social development of an individual. You misuse money, you're hurting family. So the idea of being disciplined as an individual came out in my business. And when I said came out in my business, whatever I would say at home, because I want to have the respect from my wife to my children and everybody else, was done in my business. So I didn't have a conversation that was only for guys, or a conversation for the business guy, or a conversation for the sportsman. I had an open model for anyone who wants to respect those subjects. So when a woman came in, and if we was talking about sex, she could be involved, because it was integrity in the discussion. And she was valued in the discussion. And her value was encouraged. A guy wasn't talking about sex with the depreciation of a woman in mind. You couldn't do it in my barbershop. No way. One guy said that one time to me, "Hey, this is a barbershop, man. Man talk like that." I said, "Well, you better find another barbershop. Because I'm not just catering to men who wants to satisfy themselves. I'm catering to the whole human being. And when that child comes in here, he should be able to learn from everything we say. No holds barred."
Yeah.
So when I think about the idea of the value of a business person, it takes the problem in the social life of putting demands on in the social environment on people that's only dealing with the social side. The businessman deals with everything. Everything. And if a businessman has the right attitude as a human being, he demonstrates that in his business. And if he's got a diversity of clientele, just look what it's doing to social society.
Yeah.
Good God Almighty. So the government would benefit tremendously if we had better business people. And I'm going to conclude this thought with this here. In Islam, Muslims are not supposed to pile up and hoard wealth.
Right.
We're not supposed to say we've got a large bank book and we earn all this stuff and this is what I'm worth and all that there. No, man. Get what you need and what extras you have, use it to develop other things that's in need of your extras. You're not supposed to pile it up and say, this is what my worth is. No, you're supposed to have enough for yourself and your extras go find where you could help the community that has needs. A Muslim is supposed to consider that when he sees himself as a successful business person who ends up being wealthy, your wealth should be spread. If we don't do that, what did I say earlier in my presentation? If you don't help the weak ones, you're not of us.
Great.
If you don't help the weak ones,
Right.
you're not of us.
Yeah.
Like that great gratitude. Like this guy has this eel and he's in his house, and he has a pile of clothes, and all dusty and stuff. And I get a good feeling to go get his clothes, wash them, fold them, and smell nice, and take them back for no charge. I have another guy who goes to his house and has no legs. And it's a good feeling to do that for nothing.
Yes.
Yes.
To give back to the community. It's a
Yes.
really
Yes.
good feeling. I understand what you're saying.
Yes, man.
And I get my hair cut at the barber shop. That's great conversation.
Great conversation.
But
Yeah.
if you come to my house, now it's on the road. We got an even greater conversation.
Mercy.
Yes.
Mercy.
Yes.
From an eye shirt.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know,
Yes,
modeling,
yes.
being a good model, you know, Kidist talks about her girls, and I know you say it in the greatest. I have, you know, I tell my brothers here, I'm a woman, but I understand the
Yeah.
colloquialism, right? But you know, the way you talk about them, and you want them to be the best, to be able to get them through, and to be able then to improve themselves as such a way that they can come back and make a good living.
Yeah.
And you model that.
Yeah.
You know, you gave us the statistics.
Yeah.
You know, of how many had gone through.
Yeah.
You know, I have gone through Ordred many days, and I'm saying, Colin has got those guys working for him. But there is so much in his calm demeanor that goes out with those people, you know, your customers and those that work for you. And that is, people need that level of calmness
Great
and
leadership.
charity. Pardon me?
Great leadership.
Great leadership. Yeah.
But
Great.
the first woman of faith was the businesswoman.
That's right.
That's great leader.
Yes.
Yes.
She
Prophet Muhammad.
was.
Yes.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
Yes.
And he worked for her.
She worked for her.
He worked for her
But then-
because he was an honest and a trusted person.
Yes.
And that's where she went out. And actually, she asked him to marry her.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they talk about woman empowerment, right? And that was 14 years, 100 years ago. Yeah. So that's wonderful. It leads me to a thought about values. What are your business values, Daoud?
An honest business.
An honest business.
Honest
Okay.
business. Good, fair prices, and try to overprice or try to grab everything at once. And my son hired these young boys. They were in their early 20s, full of energy and music and bump up. And I'm looking, I said, God, I've got myself in trouble again. But you know something, them boys needed that. And they're really good workers.
Wow.
They turned out to be really good. One left tonight is going to England to study. And he thanked me today because he made a good bit of money to carry him to his journey.
That's
wonderful.
Excellent.
But these young boys turned out that they're good workers, they're humble, and they need a job.
Yes.
They couldn't get a job anywhere else, but at the laundromat, at the commercial laundry, there's a rule. My son don't pull no punches.
Wonderful.
But the things they learned, you know, for instance, they were offloaded. One boy would just ride the truck and come back and sit on a chair. And he'll watch me offload these trolleys. And I look at him, I push the trolley right past him, see if he catch on. And I said to him, a conscience must be bothering you. You just sit there and watch me drag these trolleys. And I had no problem since then. He understood what I was saying.
Okay.
And
you called on his best nature once again.
Best nature.
Yeah.
Another boy, he sits in the chair. Anybody see the boss coming, he's got his legs folded. He ain't moved. So he hasn't been taught.
Yes.
It's like Connie whispered in her. I said, boss is coming. These people jump up and try to look like they're busy or something. And he look at me. He didn't say nothing, you know, they just look at me. And I just walk off.
Yes.
And they catch on.
Yes.
Yeah. And they don't, the way you say it, I don't feel like they would feel any judgment. They would just, you know, you're saying it in a way that is instructive. Yeah.
And my day was, we went to technical school, was learning trade.
Yes.
And then I think in the society, everybody wants to send their children to university, but we forgot about the trade. The carpenters, the plumbers, and electricians and stuff. You know, that was our livelihood.
Yes.
Back then.
Yeah.
I know some people that went to school after they became a mechanic now got a PhD in doctor education.
Yeah.
From Technical Institute.
That's right.
Learned how to think. Learn how to think critically. Yeah.
That's one thing I learned that I went tech on do my sitting gills, and the teachers always said, "I'm here to make you think, help you think for yourself."
Yes.
So you value that. You value critical thinking. Yeah. Kidist, what are some of your business values?
I always wanted to create a overseas experience here in Bermuda. So that was for the client and the staff, but most importantly for the staff, because you know if they're happy, the clients will be happy. And a fair ground for the staff, fair pay, fair benefits, and all those sorts of things, so that they can make a living in one of the most expensive countries in the world.
Right.
And again, my social free zone. I always wanted to make sure. You know, like the black girls get their hair done every 1 to 2 weeks, and the white girls get their hair done every 6 to 12. So we want to make sure that we have a constant flow, and also again so that we can unify in a diverse space. And training is a big value of ours, not just for the client staff, but for the clients as well. Right? They don't know what they don't know. Someone tells me to paint the wall, I'm gonna paint the wall. I don't know I have to chip it and prime it and all that nonsense. So, educating the client in order to be able to look after their hair, so that when they come back to us with their, requests that are ridiculous, we can help. So we were always, one of our values is to the education component was for staff, so we can train our locals. Because I am in an industry where it's heavily populated by foreigners, and I'm not against that. I definitely feel like when I first opened up, I wanted to have half locals and half foreigners, because I think that they bring a different aspect that the girls can grow from, and then they can be able to provide different, a wider scope to their clients, and vice versa to the expats. we have all local staff now there, and that's fine. But it's something I'm really proud of because we've organically grown now. So, we've done our bit for society. So when people say the Bermudians don't want to work and they don't want to this and they don't want to that, no, they don't want to go to work for unfair pay, and they don't want to go to work for unfair benefits. And I have a staff of all local girls that are happy to come to work and happy to go the extra mile for the business or the client. And so, those are my values.
Thank you. I want to ask you something. I see you
No,
want
go
to.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
ask you, and it relates to something that Brother Cromwell said about what the responsibility is and is not of government. What are your thoughts around that?
I don't think the government are responsible for helping my business to run. I think that is a huge, that's responsibilities on me. Running a business is a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of daily, hourly, by the minute pivoting. It's a lot of work. Now, would I like my payroll tax bill to be smaller? Absolutely. But as for the government helping, providing, I think they do well in providing the BEDC, which is, has tons of information for entrepreneurs, has tons of courses. They allow Ignite to function here. Again, tons of courses. In my years of mentoring, first let me say, in my years of owning a business, there's been a ton of self-reflection.
Okay.
And so I think owning a business and having children are two things that help you self-reflect. Now, you can choose to grow from it, or you could choose to complain about it. But I do not think it's the government's job to help me run my business. In that way.
Right.
I think I get up every day. I provide a great business model. I lead that team. I lead that salon. And yes, it's a lot of work, but I do it. And I sometimes, having mentored business owners, having had conversations with business owners, when people deflect and put all this responsibility onto someone else, I think it's more internal, personally. It's like, people say, oh, well, this and this happens at school. And I'm like, well, school doesn't get the right to create the narrative in my child's life. I give him the tools enough to go to school and deal with it, but they don't get the right to control the narrative. So I think it's the same in business, but business is constant. It's 28 hours a day, and people get tired and people get exhausted, right? So then it's like, well, it's his problem and her problem and that problem. It's not. A lot of businesses have survived this pandemic, right? And
yes.
the businesses that have stood up to the plate, the businesses that have pivoted for one reason or the other. But I do believe that a lot of the businesses that have closed down were by choice. Everyone thinks it's a bad thing that someone closes a business. I don't. I see a lot of strength in that. A lot of the businesses that closed down during the pandemic were the businesses that made all their money. They bought homes and raised kids and did all the things, and were keeping it open for staff, right? And then they had enough. The pandemic hit, and it's like, right, this is my out. I don't have to stay open. I also think that some of the businesses that closed were businesses that were like, look, I'm struggling, and I don't want to try to put more money into this. I want my life back. Because when you don't have a business to run, you get your life back. So I do see a lot of strength in not staying in something that you're not, I shouldn't say willing, but you're not willing to give the extra energy or the extra finances and walk away from it. But the beauty of owning a business is you never, ever, ever get rid of those skills. So because I close one business today, don't mean I can't open up another one tomorrow. Because I close one business today doesn't mean that I can then go and help other people run their business and be a consultant and not have the monkey on your back. There's so many ways, but the long short of it is, I don't think it's 100% the government's responsibility to help me run my business.
I want to come back to something you said earlier, but I want to get Dawood's take on the government's responsibility to business owners, or not, as Brother Cromwell said, it's on the entrepreneur. Government can't be all things to all people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe they could fix a better tax.
Yeah.
Better tax, system. Okay.
Sometimes you don't have that time to pay payroll tax. Mm-hmm. It takes a big chunk out of your business.
Okay.
It really does.
Okay.
And if I don't stress about it, I just turn my head to it and just keep doing it.
And I knew you had someone watching the books too, just so that you didn't have it all on your head at times.
Yeah. I have an accountant. She's been with me almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And I have my sister now. She runs the office.
Excellent. Great.
But,
Great. Now, Kidist mentioned something about retaining earnings. That is a wonderful key that you put your earnings back into the business.
Yeah. When I think the whole coming in at a loss, for us, we don't come in at a loss because we don't plan for it. All of our pricing, from everything from a bottle of shampoo to a haircut to a color, is all done through a formula that covers our expenses and whatever expected profit we want to have. Mm-hmm. And because we are a small business, we do fund that money, the profit, back into the business to be able to grow it and do other things with it. A wise man who's watching told me once that the money you make when you're in business makes you money. And I took that to heart and I was like, got it. And because
say that again slowly so everybody can take that in.
The money you make while in business makes you money. And we are a small business. We're not a huge conglomerate that that can list $1 million profit in a year or plus, right? So I think it's important to put the profits back into the business. But I also think as a business, and it is important to pay yourself a salary so that you don't have to start dibbling dabbling with profits and this, that, and the other, right? We do live in one of the most expensive countries in the world. So if you don't separate business finances and personal finances, you can get yourself into a right little pickle that don't make no sense. And then you get in trouble from the government.
Yes.
A lot of the business owners I've mentored over the years are like, yeah, I'm making money. I'm like, how do you know? Can you print me a report? I'm not trying to be pokey, but how do you know? And my bank account's got money in it every day. I'm like, so does mine. That's like neither here nor there, right? So like keeping it separate and being able to track the things and being able to pay myself a first salary so that I can survive, because I have goals and aspirations too. Yes. And then my services and retail that's sold in the business cover all the expenses and profit. And in the expenses are things like our payroll, all expenses due for business, right? So, we know that it takes $108 per hour, $108.30 per hour to run that chair. So as long as it's full, we'll be all right. Right? Okay. And then that's where a lot of my marketing comes in. And so we don't plan to come in at a loss at all. Right. We just don't. Okay. We plan to at least break even, if anything, but we don't plan to come in at a loss. And then we funnel all profits back into the business to be able to grow.
Keep it growing.
Yeah.
Right. So, Brother Cromwell, I saw you. Yeah,
I was
interest point
when you were covering the value set. The value question, and I reflected on history, thinking about benefits and disadvantages. What expectations derive from has a lot to do with intentions. What made you want to get into what you're into, and what is the desired outcome? Now, some people have what I call a strong imbalance, because money seems to be the end-all and cure-all. And because money seems to be associated with the benefits of business, money seems to be a driver behind a lot of things that's not good for social development. Maybe think about somebody saying, because I loved what I done, I never worked a day in my life. Because they didn't see their work, their passion as work. They didn't see what they were doing as work because it was so gratifying and satisfying. And the outcome was so satisfactory because the intention was fulfilled. So I really believe that for me to understand what I consider success and what it is that I should be looking for out of business, money doesn't come first, second, or third.
Okay.
Money comes along with me fulfilling my responsibility to a client and what the service is supposed to intend to produce. But if I cannot, in the spirit in which I was involved in my business, if I couldn't see myself wanting to have a happy customer, not look at a burdened customer, but a customer that was happy. I couldn't take his money and know that he was struggling to pay for a haircut. I couldn't do that because I wasn't just there to make money. I was there to give a service. And part of my service was to have a person who was whole in my barber chair. So when I got to understand the person, I was giving service to his needs. I wasn't just cutting hair. I was giving service to my client's needs. He had more than just a need to look good leaving the barbershop. Because you could look good and go out in the world and the world is turning you off because you're not equipped to deal with it. So when I thought about how I could help my client, I found ways to get into the client's life and say what he needed to hear in order to be a better person when he left there.
Got you. Back
So
to the model.
one of the things that is one of the most humbling things for me is that a grown man, at the time he told me this, he had 5 children. And he was on his second marriage. And he said to me, he said, Shakira, I need to tell you something. The entire time that I've been coming to you, over the duration of my life and you and I's experience, you were the closest thing to me as a father. And what I learned in order for me to be a husband and a father, I learned it from you in your barbershop. I had a grandfather, I had a father, but they weren't servicing me. Their model and then their example was more of a hurt than a help. So even though I had them in my life, they weren't a help to me. When I got to come around you and hear what I was missing, I was able to take that away and try to incorporate it in my life. And I became a better person. I want you to know that. This is a man telling me this, man. And we never had that conversation during the course of that period from him being a young guy to him being a man.
With 5 children and a wife.
I never talked to him about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he was drawing from conversation in the barbershop. So what I'm saying is, when I think about what I was serving and what my service it was contributing to, man, money came down the line, even though I made good money, man. I raised 6 children. All of them had the opportunity to go to university. I feel accomplished as a responsible human being.
Praise God.
But when I imagine the success of my business, I'm telling you, man, I haven't had a reason to tell anybody about the amount of money that I've made because that was not my driver. It was never driving me.
Could I say then that, because that was going to be my next and final question to you all, and you've actually answered it, is what do you consider success? And success is to nourish the customer in ways that you have been able to do over the lifetime in business, is to evolve them you know, and not that you, like you said, you didn't have to talk about it, but just being present to listen.
See, the history piece, right?
Yes.
See, me being willing to want to come up to scratch to my surroundings, man. My anger of seeing my environment not getting what they deserved in many facets. I'm not gonna get into all of it, but I came up feeling hurt as a young person because the ones I loved deserved more.
Gotcha.
But the community and its dysfunction didn't promote that. And my anger was getting more and more out of whack, man. But I chose to make lemonade out of lemons. I decided to be a part of the society and try to change it rather than complain and get angry and try to get at people or systems that was responsible for this dysfunction. So how could I ignore the history piece?
You know, it's funny. I'm not going to answer for the two of you. I'm going to ask you the same question. But I have heard a theme running here is that you believe your customers, your people, humanity, your girls, your customers in your social free zone, your customers, your work, the people, your staff deserve more, and you provide that opportunity. But that's what I hear. Now I want to hear from you without Michelle Caldoun's kind of influence. What do you consider business success?
I look at what I've accomplished. It seems to be a reflection to the community. I'm talking about the broader community. For example, there was two white ladies drove up in a car. I never seen them before. I never seen them in the laundromat. And they said, "I see what you're doing here. Make sure you have Wi-Fi in the building." Seriously. I mean, they look like they was in their 80s. This putty guy, I needed to fill some land around the back. He bought some rubber for me. He bought his machine, his bobcat, his forklift, and leveled it off, and never charged me.
Mercy.
So, when I look at that, what I was doing was a reflection to the broader community.
Okay. Yeah. You believe your community deserves more, and you're going to be a part of creating that more for everyone. Yeah. Nice.
And I think people appreciate, respect, progress.
Yes. Yeah. Perceptions for progress. That's what we've been talking about tonight. Yeah. And Kidist?
My idea of success is when I can provide a level of balance for my staff.
Okay.
And I can provide a proper career and space for them in which they can work.
Yes.
You know, my staff are getting older now and have kids and marriages and stuff like that. So when I could provide them a proper career, that's one level of success for me. We live in times that are expensive.
Yes.
So when we are profitable, and then we can drive our profits back into the business to be able to grow the business for our staff and clients alike, I feel really good about that. That's like a level of success to me. And then also, lastly, a level of success to me is that the business has been scaled, and I can now actually be the visionary of my business so that we can have longevity in the game, like 50 years and 35 years plus.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We can't wait to see and hear from the viewing audience. We see you in the grocery store. We would love for you to send us an email, any other subjects you want to talk about, or any things that you really want to. We want to stimulate the dialogue for progress in our country. And we know that there is a diversity of opinion, and we also know that there's a diversity of skills that can be brought up and evolved. And we're going to continue this conversation, God willing, in 2023. As I said before, the topic, I think, in January when we return, will be about health. think health matters to our families. And we have education matters and self-determination. And what better, we've got some very powerful lessons from entrepreneurs, as you have said, Brother Cromwell, about the fact that it is not just government. The business is the other arm that creates wealth and a healthy community. So we're going to take these nuggets and maybe ask some of you to come back again to talk, because we've scratched the surface. It's not just about business. It's about the physical, spiritual, mental well-being of first yourself, your families, your community, and our country. So I want to thank you, Colin Smith, also known as Daoud Asidullah, and your family, and all of the years of experience where you've helped create a better Bermuda. I really would thank you for coming on and sharing with us this evening. Kidist, Emery, yes, the Holy One that your father named you.
My dad.
Your
yes.
dad. So thank you.
Talking about success, one last thing is, for me personally, it has nothing to do with my business or anything like that. The fact that my father was a little bit iffy of my choice in career. So now when he looks at me and pats me in the back and says, "Good job, baby," I know I've made it. I'm like, in my heart, I'm like, thank you, Daddy.
Yes, thank you, Daddy. And that's what we want to be more of in Bermuda. We want to be able to say, thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Mama, while they can hear it.
Yes.
Thank you, community that propped you up. Thank you, wife. Thank you, husband. Thank you, sons, daughters. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Brother Cromwell, we'll see you in 2023. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your illuminations this evening, your reflections. I'm Michelle Caldoun, and for Progress, Perceptions for Progress, I thank you. Good night.
Good night.